We're back.
We're back.
Today we talk about chapter 10 from The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. And this one is about envy. So, chapter 10 is Beware the Fragile Ego, the Law of Envy.
Wow.
We have a total of 18 laws of human nature, and
This is Law 10.
this is Law 10. Now, envy is a human nature. That's what Robert Greene is explaining to us. It's one of the
Emotions.
emotions that it's just we're
We
born with.
Yeah, we all have it.
We all have it. And then there's passive types of envy, and then there's active envy. In reading this chapter, did it make you reflect on maybe past
Oh,
relationships?
for sure. For sure. I mean, every time I read, it depends on where you are in your life, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I couldn't understand this before, but there was this guy in high school. He was very smart and he says, "Hey, every time I read a book, a second time and a third time, I get a lot more out of it." And I couldn't understand that back then. But, you know, it depends on the frame of mind you're in, the experiences you've gone through. And as you get older, your thoughts on many issues change. And so reading this chapter again, psh, it's tremendous. It's one of the emotions that we all have, and we need to learn to control it,
Yeah.
hack it.
Yeah, because you're going to experience that feeling no matter what.
Right.
Now, where have you encountered this? Somebody who's envious, let's say, of you.
Of me.
Yeah. Have you
Oh.
been able to pinpoint a situation and kind of put it as envy? Because one thing that impacted me, well, before I get into it, is there a situation you can think of?
Yeah, you know, yes, absolutely. Friends, like in high school, okay, when there was this girlfriend or this other girlfriend, and you know, things didn't mean all that much. So you go out with one weekend and whatever, and then yeah, there was envy there. If somebody landed a very pretty girl, I suppose. Yeah, so let me tell.
Envious of the guys that were with a pretty girlfriend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or the pretty girl. Not necessarily they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and that's back then. Um, I remember this guy that I couldn't figure it out. I work hard for my grades, and we got into physics, and I had to work hard for that A.
Yeah.
But there was another guy, his name was Peter, and he didn't study, you know, he didn't put in the time, and it just like it came so natural to him. And he would get better grades than me. I was still up there in the A category, but the A minus, this and that. He would ace those tests 100%, get extra credit from the teacher because of the way he did the one problem or the way he explained it. I mean, it was brutal. And I can honestly say I envied that. I envied him because he didn't. I don't know where he is in life today. I hope doing exceedingly well because he certainly had the brains for it. But one thing that I've learned is that in order to get far in life, you need to have people skills. If you don't have people skills, it doesn't matter a
Yeah.
lot of the other stuff. You're going to have to compensate one way or another. So, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I envied him
I
for,
think that having people skills definitely enhances re- relationships or life. But I'm thinking there are some people that have these tech, let's say, style positions, or they're really, but still, at the end of the day, if you have people skills, you're going to be ahead of the guy that doesn't. Yeah.
And it's throughout the world because I
Yeah.
remember Manny talking to you guys when you were little, and he's from the Philippines, and he remembers when he was in college or just ending high school, one of his buddies was just absolutely brilliant. 30 years later, he goes back to the Philippines.
Hmm.
And this guy that was brilliant, okay, you know what he is? He's an actuarial today. So he's in a box, in a room, in a box, doing statistical analysis for earthquakes and insurance companies and this and that. And Manny would never want to do that. You know, he's the type that is very
He's more of a
successful.
people person.
Yeah, he likes to get on his motorcycle, this and that, and whatever,
Yeah.
ride into the horizon. This guy is stuck in a box, but maybe that's what that guy likes.
Right. Yeah, you can't put
Yeah,
your
you know what
own
I mean?
views on it.
So maybe
Or
he's in heaven in that cubicle doing numbers and analyzing numbers and trying to
yeah.
figure out theorems and whatever. Maybe he's in heaven. Um, but
So
that's not for us, right?
so
So
it goes back, so you experienced it, you're saying, in high school.
in high school, all over the place, in business too. In business too.
I it made me think about this chapter. For me, made me reflect a lot.
Me
And
too.
actually, it almost he says don't become paranoid, but you can, because you can think that almost every relationship can have envy in it, which it probably does. However, there's the passive kind, which is natural, and then he's saying there's the active one where they're actively pursuing to take you down, essentially.
Well, he gives many examples in history,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, he's was talking about Marie Shelley, who was the author of Frankenstein,
Right.
and what happened in her personal life. And she had this lady, Jane Williams, that basically couldn't she couldn't stay away from Marie Shelley because of envy, but something drew her to her. But eventually, she tried to take her down,
Yeah.
and disrupt her relationship with her husband, and then her reputation. And later on, Robert Greene says Marie Shelley realized that it was envy that Jane Williams had for her.
Right.
But he says you can't. There's no way to quantify the amount of damage she did to Marie Shelley, pain and suffering and everything that she put her through.
Right.
That you can't, there's no way to quantify it. So instead, try to identify these people.
And
Be,
run in the opposite direction.
yeah, don't let them into your life.
Yeah, you know, awareness is a big issue. I mean,
Yeah.
this, let me tell you guys, you need to read the chapter again. I actually, if you can believe it, I actually read this chapter now 3 times
Okay.
to sit for this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an amazing chapter. It's just so much. Robert Greene puts so many golden nuggets in there.
Yeah.
You know, like he says, look, it's a natural emotion that we all have, and you have to learn to channel that energy into a positive direction.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you become aware that you're envious of someone, you know, try to turn that envious into admiration. Okay? Admire what that person has done and know deep down inside that you're quite capable of doing something similar. Okay? Maybe your gift is not in that area. Because if you're talking, let's say, about a pianist, don't envy him for his ability to excel. Admire him for it.
Big difference.
It's a big difference.
Big
And
difference.
and if you can, try to emulate him. Those are the 2 words he threw out. Okay?
It seems that the envy would come from the insecurity that maybe I'm not able to play the piano like that person, even if I tried. And admiration is more so respect for what this person, the hours they put in, or maybe they're just naturally gifted, but respecting that and admiring, or maybe getting inspired by it to pick up something that you're really good at, instead of
That's it.
wanting what they have, which is the ability to play exceptionally well.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And um, I mean, there's just a ton of golden stuff in here. He also says, look, if you're naturally gifted in one area and you happen to have very good work ethics, okay, and you happen to be a little lucky, you're going to excel in whatever area it is. And unfortunately, envy will follow you for the rest of your life. Can you imagine? So, if you happen to be gifted in one area, if you happen to be a little lucky, and if you have very good work ethics, if you have those three, you will not be able to get rid of envy. Envy will follow you for the rest of your life. That's where you can get some neurotic stuff like that,
Yeah.
right? And he says, and
Right, because
some,
you think every relationship, they're envious.
well, the problem is that he says that those people are usually unaware of what's happening with this feeling,
Hmm.
and they can become the victims of the people that are the aggressive enviers, right? That are really out there and really want to hurt you
Yeah.
and end up hurting you. Like Maria Saldivar, she became envious of Selena, which was the
The singer.
Tex-Mex young girl that got a lot of fame,
Yeah.
and she ended up killing her in 1995. So,
Yeah. Yeah, because
boys
she
and girls, gentlemen, ladies, you have to run away from it
yeah.
if you are able to identify it.
Robert Greene was saying that she helped to build the company, around
She
Selena
she built a
fan base,
fan club.
fan club, and so she then felt entitled, or part of the reason of her success, which maybe she was, well, I don't know, but that turned south
Well,
because
she started running her clothing stores.
and embezzling money,
Right.
because she felt that she was entitled to that, or whatever the case. She started to justify these feelings,
Yeah.
and then eventually taking action and taking her life. And she
Can
was
you
very
imagine?
young when she
Oh,
she she killed her.
it's horrible. I remember when that happened. And, I didn't particularly follow Selena at all, but I mean, it was a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. But, this thing about ego, one of the things that he's saying, I forget the name of the guy, I wrote it down, but it's the guy that worked for Bill Clinton. Do you remember that guy's name?
No.
Okay. Robert Rubin. Robert Rubin worked for Bill Clinton, and apparently he was one of the in 1966 he was one of the main guys to build Goldman Sachs. Okay, and he was a master at diffusing envy with people around him. He was brilliant. He was excelling. He worked for Bill Clinton, I think, two terms as Secretary of Treasury. But he also built Goldman Sachs. Okay, but when people came to him to ask him for advice and so forth, the first thing he would say would be, "What do you think?
Yeah.
What is it that what do you think?" And it would put it back on them and actually listen and try to get something good out of what was being said to him.
Right, right. So they're coming to him saying, "Hey, we have a situation here. We should do this and that." And then he gave the person, let's say, their place.
What do you think?
Yeah, what do you think we should do? Even though he was in a higher position.
Right.
Yeah.
So somebody mentioned, hey, he's the master at diffusing the emotion of envy all the way around him. And people didn't envy him. People liked him, you know? And it reminds me of Mandela. Mandela said that his father was a chieftain in his country, and he would sit with all the chiefs, but he was the top dog, right? And it was like a round table inside a hut or something like that. And he would be the last one to speak. That was his rule. He would go around and listen to everybody's opinion, okay? And he would be the last one to speak. And I read something that Mandela wrote, and he said, look, that was very smart of my father, because if you speak first, you throw out your idea, everybody's gonna adjust their idea to yours because you're the top dog. They're gonna say, oh, we're not going to go against our
Mm-hmm.
chieftain, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you allow everybody to speak first, then you get a genuine idea of what it's in everybody's mind. And you might find the answer, a better answer than what you've got, you know? So
It's that's so powerful.
it is
Letting people
powerful.
speak first and
Yeah. Just listen.
being open to changing your mind on something.
That's right.
I thought also what was really cool was he says first impressions are so important and they're the most accurate. And the reason they're the most accurate is because somebody who is envious of you, the first impression that you get that maybe you don't like and maybe something's off is accurate because they have not yet been able to cloak those. I don't know if they were called microaggressions or small little clues, cues, facial expressions. They haven't been able to cloak them yet. As the relationship continues, and let's say this person gives you a lot of praise and they are constantly saying nice things about you, then you begin to like lower that guard and you forget what your first impression was of this person, which was accurate, because now they've been able to kind of blind you a little bit with all the nice things that they're saying and cloak how they those little microaggressions or the little things that were clues that they were envious of you, and then now you've developed a relationship and now you're getting deeper with this person, but the first impression is accurate. What do you think about that?
I think I totally agree. And who of us is keen on every hour of the day? Nobody.
Yeah.
Those things are going to fly by you. If, how are you going to, you need to be looking for it. You need to be intentional, which is what you say all the time, and you need to be aware of it.
Well, which chapter was observe, observe, observe,
Correct. Yeah.
right?
I don't know.
But yeah.
But see, so many things come to mind. Like, for example, we went through the book, The 12 Rules for Life, remember? And
Yes.
there's one in there that Jordan Peterson says, make sure that you tell your good fortune to someone that is going to be happy for you.
Yep. Yep. See,
You
law
remember that one?
three. Law three is see through people's masks, and that's the one I think that was
Okay.
observed. See through people's masks. That goes hand in hand. But yeah, one of the 12 rules is well, I don't remember. Um, we've heard it somewhere. Be careful who you share good news with.
No, I know for a fact it's in the 12 Rules for
12
Life.
rules.
I know
Okay.
for a fact
Okay.
because that shocked me.
Jordan Peterson.
It when it hit me, Jordan Pete for sure.
Yeah.
Make sure that you share your good fortune with someone that is going to be happy for your good fortune. And how do you figure that out?
Well, I was sharing it with you the other day because something good happened to you or you did something good recently and you were sharing it with some people and you've had some really nice responses. But then I said the other side to it is that when you share that with someone via text, you don't actually get to see how they really responded. You get to see the text reply, which they could take their time to reply. And let's say if they were envious of you, it's very difficult in that situation. Maybe you can find it that it's very short or something like that, or they ignore. I think when people ignore or don't reply to a text or a call, they're telling you something. And I've been guilty of continuing to outreach to that person thinking, oh, let me give them the benefit of the doubt. They had something going on in their life, their stress, whatever. Uh, but no, they're trying to tell me something.
Well,
They're not interested in engaging.
you're a salesman.
Yeah.
I'm a salesman. We're salesmen. And a salesman is supposed to follow up, follow up, follow up. Remember that old saying, follow up, follow up, follow up until they buy or die.
Yeah.
I know that's
Crude.
crude and kind of extreme, but that's
But this is just
the seminars
this is
that
not to sell something though.
no, I know, but you follow up because you're used, that's
I'm
in
used to
your
reaching out.
DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in your DNA. Now you're right. When somebody doesn't return a call or a text, okay, that's an answer in and of itself.
Mm.
Now I've learned the hard way
Yeah.
not to take it personal because every time I've taken it personal, I've been wrong. For example, this weekend, I texted a person that's a very nice man, and we were supposed to get together, let's say Sunday. And we weren't supposed, there wasn't anything set up. It was just a mention. So I texted on Saturday, and I didn't hear anything, okay, back from this gentleman, which is unlikely because this is a good guy. Um, but what happens on Sunday morning, I get a text saying, "Hey, you know what? I ate something. I got really sick. I ended up in urgent care,
Yeah.
and then they weren't able to see me there. I ended up in the emergency room,
So what you're getting to is if you would have jumped to the conclusion that he didn't want to come or
or he
whatever,
doesn't want to
you
help
would
me
have been wrong.
anymore, or whatever." But I didn't,
Yeah.
to my credit, and I'm not trying to take credit for anything.
Pat yourself a little bit.
No, I'm not, because you judge the source, and I know that this is a good guy.
Yeah.
I actually was worried that he didn't text me.
You did say that.
Yeah,
Now, you're
I
saying
knew something happened.
he's a good guy,
He's
and
a
I
good
think that
man.
that's what this chapter covers. You've been burned, you've had you've been, lied to, you have the benefit of experience, not only because you're 65 years old, but also you've tried a lot of things.
Hmm.
I mean, we've talked about when you were first getting into the world of sales and business, you tried a lot of different
Oh
things,
God,
until eventually you landed in the world of insurance. But before that, you were trying everything.
I sold everything.
But and failed at a lot of things, you
Oh,
could say, but you learn from it. You learn from it. And I have too, and I continue to. Now, when you say he's a good guy, it's because I think your experience, you're now able to see somebody and somewhat be a good judge of character. And I think that this chapter is would it help somebody like you, but especially for the person that maybe hasn't experienced all these encounters, how to spot somebody and be a better judge of character. I think that's what this chapter really does. It kind of gives you like tips, like, look, these are things to look out for.
yeah. Well, look, um, something that's happening, something that has happened a lot. And how long have we been doing this podcast? A year? Over a year?
In December will be two
In
years.
December would be 2 years.
So,
And
year, 10 months.
okay, a year and 10 months. And it's a father and son thing. In the last year and 10 months, you don't know how many people have told me you have a great relationship with your son. Okay? I wish I had that relationship with my son. But I have this relationship with all my kids. That's what I say. But the first thing I say is, look, you know, it's not a walk in the park. You've got your ideas, I've got mine. We disagree
Yeah.
every now and then,
Quite a
and
bit.
it's
Quite a bit.
quite a bit, and
Yeah.
it's not an easy thing, right? We have to make it work. You
Yeah.
put out a lot, I put out a lot to make this uh, business venture work because we're in the business of real estate, you know, and we have a company and we're growing it together, and it's not easy. Sometimes you want to pull to the right, and sometimes I want to pull to the left, and we gotta come and sit down and say, hey, what do you think might be the best thing for the company?
Right.
But a lot of people say you have a great relationship with your son. I have a great relationship with your brother. I have a great relationship with your sister. And I'm here to tell everybody it's a work in process.
Sure.
It's not as good as it seems like it is. It takes energy, it takes work,
Yeah.
and it takes a little bit of humility, saying, look, I'm wrong on this one. Why don't you show me what you've got or whatever? You know?
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of people, and I'm grateful. And when someone says that, I'm extremely grateful. And I say always, thank you, thank you. And I think we do have a great relationship. But it's a work in process. It's not an easy
Of
task,
course.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
Especially with somebody as stubborn as him.
you know, um, we always get into respect because like we joke around a lot and stuff off the camera and throughout the day and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're not gonna. It's respect. You don't cross a certain line, and then if you do, come back and apologize, and then that's how you make things work.
And we've done that, by
Um,
the way, with each other.
yeah. One thing I thought was really cool, quote from the book, was learn to deflect envy by drawing attention away from yourself,
Correct.
which is what this gentleman was doing under Clinton. But
What do you
also,
think?
huh? Yeah.
By saying, what do you think?
And also, you take, you don't focus on your natural God given, let's say, talents. You focus on how difficult the hard work.
Or on your inability to perform another task.
Yeah, so someone says, you are exceptional at soccer. And it's like, yeah, but I can't throw a baseball for the
Right.
life of me.
Exactly.
Right. So that's how you find ways to like deflect and diffuse envy.
And you know what you just reminded me of so some of these TikTok videos are
You're on TikTok?
absolutely huh?
You're on TikTok?
What? Instagram, whatever, I'm all over the place. But some of these short videos
Yeah.
are absolutely awesome. Okay?
Yes.
You just reminded me of one where there's this little girl, she's kicking a soccer ball, right? And she did a horrible job. She tried to kick it this way, the ball went the wrong way. It was terrible. But after she kicks the ball, she's still happy. And she did 6 or 7, what do you call them, cartwheels,
Oh, wow.
back to her position. And the frame on the TikTok or Instagram thing says, you're not good, maybe at one thing. You just need to find what you're really, truly good at. She may be lousy at soccer, as it proved that the kick was bad. And then she did 6 or 7 cartwheels back to her position. She should be in
In the gym.
gymnastics. Right. She's not, maybe she shouldn't be in the soccer field.
Yeah.
She should be in gymnastics.
Wow.
Okay. Dad, mom, whoever that mom, dad is,
Yeah. That is something interesting.
It,
As a parent, you have to be involved and be able to see what maybe the strengths are of your child, God given natural strengths, right? Like, what was I listening to? Right now, I don't remember where I heard it, but it was saying, look, if your son is good at, if your son really struggles with math, but is just exceptional at literature, quit ramming math down their throat, giving them a tutor after school to get their math grades up. Quit doing that. Oh, actually, it was my barber.
oh,
He was sharing with me that one of the ladies that came to speak at the school, and they were saying, stop doing that. You're giving him a tutor. You're torturing the kid because math is not his thing. Put him in programs that focus on what he
natural
loves,
God given talents are, and he'll excel.
which are literature. But STEM, you're thinking, oh, well, literature, maybe what's he going to do with that? Yeah, but what if he's the next Shakespeare? you know? So,
There you go.
but you have to focus, and it's kind of counter what maybe I guess what the school system teaches us is like, oh, you're suffering in this area. Instead of saying, look where you're doing exceptional. Like, oh, you're suffering, you got to bring these up. But look at here, you're like number one. So that's an interesting thing to bring out. Natural God given. Schadenfreude. Have you heard that before? I've heard the word before, but it's an interesting concept.
Uh-huh.
Schadenfreude. It's German. I may be saying it incorrectly, but it's joy in Schadenfreude. It's the emotional experience of pleasure in response to another's misfortune.
Yeah, that's not
Um,
good.
that he was tying that into envy, and when these people take action against you, and that envy turns into aggressive, actionable things, whether it's bashing your reputation or talking bad about you around your friends, that they get joy in that damage to you.
Yeah, like Reggie Jackson and Tillman. I mean, he was there in Reggie Jackson's autobiography. He said, "Look, he was always behind me, and I was just afraid that he would just stick a knife and turn it."
Jeez.
I mean, how do you spend it? And he turned the whole team against him, apparently. That's an interesting autobiography. But he comes out and mentions that. That's very interesting, you know?
Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah. In envy, the Latin word envidere,
Uh-huh.
which means to look upon, apparently. And that's the origin of the evil eye, actually,
There you go.
which was pretty cool, I thought. Just a fun fact. The origin of the evil eye. That's why people wear, yeah, I know. I don't
I'm
know if
sorry,
it's,
I said Tillman. It's Reggie Jackson and Nero.
oh, okay.
Tillman was the other guy that was also bad, um, and did really bad things. Um, but that was with another area. It was Reggie Jackson and Nero.
What are your thoughts on social media creating much envy? Because in the chapter, he gets into that.
Yes, he does. And absolutely, I think it does. Because social media is just putting out, what's the best that we've got to provide.
Yeah.
But the best, you're not at your best every minute of the day. In fact, you may be at your best very few minutes of the day, but that's
Mm-hmm.
what you throw out there for everybody to see.
Right.
And I think that stirs up envy.
Your car, your house,
Your
your
car,
boat, your toys,
yeah,
whatever.
all that stuff.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Well,
Like, I don't,
it does stir up envy.
I absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
Oh, okay.
I've even seen some things on social media, and I feel myself with certain emotions of, oh, and I'm like, it's not natural. We shouldn't be exposed
To all that
to
stuff.
all that stuff, and that's a problem. And if adults struggle with it, can you imagine even kids?
Of course. This
So
morning.
what do you do? Get off social media?
Yeah, this morning with the grandkids.
Yeah.
You see it. They want more of that other thing because the other guy had more.
Well, yeah, I came in and I had a banana in my hand, and before you knew it, one of the grandkids was banana, banana. They wanted a banana, and they ended up getting their banana.
Yeah,
So it's like you want what the other person has, is
right.
what I'm getting
So
to.
you just have to teach them to the best, you have to share and all.
Um, something that we grew up hearing.
They're brutal.
Oh, the
They have no
grandkids.
mercy.
Oh yeah,
Kids,
yeah. It's
they'll tell you if your nose is big and if you got a big head or if you're ugly, they'll just let you have it. It's
it
there's
is
no
also
filter.
it is refreshing also in a
Yeah,
world of everyone's politically correct.
absolutely.
Um,
Beware of the fragile eagle.
we grew up hearing "La envidia es mala consejera,"
You're absolutely right.
which is envy is a bad advisor.
Yes.
And these are sayings that Grandpa would
Grandpa would
say.
say that all the time.
Yeah, and so you know, we're big fans of Graham Hancock, and he talks about the oral tradition and mythology and all these things. There was a message behind each word, and this is a little saying: "La envidia es mala consejera."
Yeah, but it's right spot on.
And to me, what it means, and then actually tell me what it means to you first.
Well, there's some things that you're able to talk to your father before your father passes away. And this was actually one of them. There's another one that I never got to talk to my dad about, and he's gone now. So you know, but in this particular one, he would tell me this. The translation is envy is a bad advisory, right? Advisor. Um, and I always would say yes, right? I agree. But he was telling it to me, and I received it for years. Oh yeah, the other guy is the one that's envious, not me. But the saying that my dad was saying was for me. Don't let envy get inside of you. It's a bad advisor, right? And I was able to understand that years later. It took me like 7 years, 9 years of hearing this, 10 years. And then I went back and I said, what exactly do you mean? Do you mean the other people are envious of us, or don't develop envy within me? And he said, don't develop envy within you. It took me 10 years, Mike, to figure that out. But I did talk to my dad about that.
And was that because he thought you could be looking at people, let's say, that had more things,
I was always comparing myself to the person that was ahead of me.
like the
Yeah,
Joneses?
because, um, I had read a book in college saying, don't look back. Don't look at the guy that, you know, um, is not as good as you in physics. Don't look at the guy that's not as good as you in sports. Don't look at the guy that's not as good as you in chess. Look at the guys that are creating a wave.
Hmm.
Look at the guys that are in front, and you strive to be better always by trying to catch up to the guy that's in front. And I thought that was, you know, but my dad had said that to me. Don't, because that's what I was looking for, to striving to be better, but in the process you can become envious of those people, and I'm
Right.
sure I did. I'm not perfect by any sense of the stretch of the mind. So and that was the so I was able to have that conversation with my father
Wow.
before he passed,
Wow.
and I got it, what he meant. That's his meaning, that's his opinion, right? And I respect it very much.
Yeah.
So 10 years later, I got it. It took
It's
a long years, I'm telling you, years. I was
it,
out of high school.
those. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I think maybe even out of college.
Working.
It took years. Yeah, I think I was already in the working field. So maybe even more than 10
Yeah.
years. But I was able to sit with him one day having coffee, and I said, what exactly do you mean? Because I think I've had this wrong for the last 10, 12 years, or God knows how long.
It's always easier to project it on other people.
That's
It's
right.
harder to think, oh wow,
That's
is it
right.
me?
And he knew that I had it wrong. And he never told me. And I asked him, how come you never corrected me? And he goes, well, because it's more impactful if you figure it out on your own.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, in the way that I look at it
Crazy.
is, if you listen to envy as your, let's say, your advisor on your shoulder, let's say your advisor, that it's gonna take you down a bad path.
Oh, it sure will.
That's the way it's gonna give you bad advice, and you're gonna make improper decisions, and it's you have to be conscious of that. So anytime you start having those feelings, or I start having some feelings, let's say, of envy, I do think about that saying, hey, that's not a good way to go.
No, it's not.
You
And
try to
when you know that
correct.
it applies to you, as my old man threw it out,
Yeah.
because he was a man of a lot of sayings. Remember, in
Yeah.
Cuba,
Yeah.
you call them dicharacheros. And in Cuba, these guys had, okay, and a lot of those sayings, like you're saying, Graham Hancock, they are very valuable.
Sure.
Those sayings, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness,
Yeah.
you know. There's also the one thing that I have forgotten about this, the poisonous praise, you know, where the guy is super or the lady envious of you, but they want to praise you, right?
Right.
So they said, "Oh, I'm glad you're doing so well here, but too bad that you lost that house because that house was so nice." And so they praise you, and they still leave you with a feeling of blah, right? And he calls it the poisonous praise. And it can come with wicked jokes and all kind. I mean, it's
Now, another variation of that was, let's say you got let's say you got a promotion or something, or you bought a new business or whatever it is, and they praise the money aspect only.
that's right.
So it's like, oh, you're gonna make so much more money in this position, as if that's all you were looking for, gunning for. And it's like a hit to the gut, because instead of praising your hard work and the things you'll be able to achieve at this position, it
And the
focuses
benefits
on,
you might be able to provide for God knows who, society,
yeah,
other people.
they choose to focus on the money as if that's all you wanted. And that, i I think that falls under the poisonous
I
praise.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that, oh yeah, you, let's say you moved houses. Oh, congratulations. But, oh, that other house, was so nice, right?
Right.
Oh, man, those people, keep them away. The problem is that many
Identifying them.
identify them.
Where are they? Are they in your circle of friends? Are they within your family? Are they sitting at your Thanksgiving table? Okay. When you get together in Thanksgiving, do they come to your Christmas party? Are these people in, you know,
Yeah.
I have a great deal of respect for Dan Pena, even though he's got a really, really bad mouth. And he's got his castle and all that stuff, and God bless him for it. Okay.
Yeah.
But he says this thing constantly. He says, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." So, if you're not hanging out with, he says, if you're hanging out with hippies, you're going to be a hippie. You're hanging out with doctors, you're probably going to be a doctor. You're hanging out with engineers, you're going to be an engineer. If you're hanging out with hoodlums, you're going to be a hoodlum. That thought of guilty by association, because it kind of rolls in.
Yeah.
So you need to be careful who your friends are,
Yeah.
and who's sitting at your Thanksgiving table, who's sitting at your Christmas table. There may be envy within the family.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
Well,
Yeah.
how do you work it out?
And it doesn't have to be envy of only, let's say, of success or money. It could also be other things, that, let's say, like, this person is good looking, and they weren't born with that set of gifts, let's say.
Right.
Or this person is, like you said, just naturally gifted. I went to school with my buddy Richard, who wouldn't have to study either, and I would joke around and stuff, but he would pass all his classes. He would get B's, I think, in some of the, but he never studied, never sat for it. He would just lecture, do the lecture, and sit for the test. And these were extremely difficult
Jeez,
science
can
classes.
you
So,
imagine? I had to work for every grade, man. And
yeah, some people have these, but you can be envious of them.
oh,
Um,
sure.
it's not only material things. It could be just some people, like, they have a lot of good
I
luck.
remember being at Loma Linda University, and I was taking inorganic chemistry, and there was a kid in the class. The teacher was up front, and he was exceptional, and he had been teaching the class for many years. And he's teaching this complex formula on how to derive inorganic compounds, whatever, okay? And one kid in the audience says, that's actually not totally correct. You reached the right answer, but not totally correct. And he was like 17, no, 18, 19, okay? And the instructor goes, really? Come on up and show me. And he went up, and he showed him an alternative way of figuring that, which was better than the way that the instructor had been doing it for 15 years. He'd been teaching that class for 15 years.
Wow.
Now, how does that 18 or 19-year-old have that kind of awareness? Where does that come from?
Yeah. Not probably natural, God
It,
given. Yeah.
where
Some
you
people are
read one
gifted.
thing one time, like you can read this book and then You can walk away and you know that on page 120 they were talking about XYZ.
Yeah, yeah.
It
Some
reminds me
people
of that
have that.
movie, that the math movie with Matt Damon,
Oh, Goodwill Hunting.
Goodwill Hunting.
Yeah. Um,
Anyway,
there's five common varieties of enviers. You have the leveler, the self-entitled slacker, the attached envier, and the insecure master. The insecure master was interesting because they're a high position,
uh,
but they're in that high position, they're insecure. Um, and they might envy your youth, your energy, your talent. They're going to fire you because they have a higher position. And you're going to say, well, what happened? Why did I get fired? But it's because they were envious of you
yeah.
and maybe threatened by you that you might come for their position and be able to replace them. He
Well, if
talked,
you read 48 Laws of Power, you wouldn't be in that situation because rule number one says never outshine the master.
that's correct.
So if you read the 48 Laws of Power from Robert Greene, which is another one of his books, law number one is never outshine the master because they're all insecure. They have some insecurities. You produced a better product than he could have ever done.
Yeah,
And the next thing you know, you're not getting praised. You're getting
you're getting
fired.
fired. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Um, envy triggers. So this one for me in social media, I think is those in your industry. So these are people that, let's say, your peers. Some are still struggling. They're gonna be envious of you that you're posting constant success. Um, and many times it's your peers. I don't know how to combat that in, let's say, social media. I'm not sure how to, because it's people use it to showcase what they're doing. So that's the thing. I don't know how you would combat the feelings of envy that are created in social media. I don't
Well,
have the answer.
Patrick Bet David has a saying that I think is very important. And the man that is creating, or the woman, okay, that is creating, that's trying to figure it out, that's out there genuinely working with good work ethics and trying to figure out how to this entire mess works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that person doesn't have the time to look around and try to compare and see who's doing better because
You got your head down and you're just
you're
digging.
creating your own path.
It's a good point.
So if you're creating, you have your, what is it, your juices flowing, your creative juices flowing, you're trying to figure it out, but you have this work ethic. You have to get up and you have to grind it. Because a lot of people say, well, don't work hard, work smart, right? Okay. Well, at what point you start working smart? Because if don't you have to work hard in the beginning?
Yeah.
And how long does the beginning last? And what are you comparing yourself to? And what company and what field are you in?
You know that you bring that up? Some of the most successful people I know are not on social media. They don't use social media like that. They just do what you say. They just got their head down and they're creating. Now, there are certain people on social media that it seems they have a team of people that helps them create content and they sell a program or they do something else. They're doing something else with it. But the successful people, they're not really on it. The most successful financially.
Well, they
So
don't need to be.
they don't need to be. That's an interesting one.
Have you heard the saying, beware of the man with the t-shirt?
No.
So you walk into a room of 20 people and 19 of them are dressed in a suit and tie. But there's one guy in the back of the room that's wearing a t-shirt. That's the guy with the power and the money. And that's what they say, right? Because he can wear whatever he wants. Okay? He doesn't have to, he could wear a suit if he wanted to, but he chooses to wear a t shirt.
Hmm.
That's the guy with the power, and that's the guy with the money,
It
or the lady with the power, or the lady with the money.
it reminds me of jobs. Zuckerberg, Bezos.
There you go.
When do you ever see these guys in a suit? And they're the Musk.
Barely.
These are the guys that are the wealthiest in the world, and yeah, they can dress however they want. Everybody knows them, and they
The
demand
only time
respect.
I saw Elon Musk in a suit is when he went to Dubai to shake hands with the sheiks over there and
I'm
for
sure.
his
I'm
oil
sure
thing.
that yeah, but
Yeah,
you
I'm sure
the
there's
like
you can't go with a shirt.
they wear the I think Zuckerberg was the I forgot what white T-shirt and Musk I mean Jobs was the black long sleeve
Right.
jeans. Anyways, if you want to throw anything else in, I just thought um admiration is the opposite of envy.
Oh, I was just reading it.
I
Yeah.
thought that was a really cool thing. So if we can, like you
Admire.
said, turn those feelings of envy, and I don't know that it would be called envy at that point, but let's say it is, those feelings of, oh man, look how well they're doing, turn that into admiration. I find that to be very helpful for
I
me.
think so too.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to get started on this so that you don't fall into this deep hole of the envious, you know? Celebrate someone else's greatness. Celebrate it.
Yeah.
Be happy for somebody else.
Genuinely.
Genuinely, And know that you can be just as great in the field that you are having affinity for,
Yeah.
or maybe even that field themselves. Empower yourselves with the progress of somebody else to push you to do better. I think that's the key, honestly.
I think so too. Cool.
All right.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.